Hey, everybody. Welcome. In the Car with Starr is coming at you on this Monday in the aftermath of Nick Taylor making Canadian golf history at Oakdale Golf and Country Club, just outside, really, in the GTA area, going 4 playoff holes deep with England's own Tommy Fleetwood. As you can tell here, this is kind of a makeshift In the Car with Starr on this Back to Work Monday. Because I've recently changed vehicles. I have upgraded my life and my car life. I have gone from a Nissan Maxima SR to a brand new Nissan Maxima Platinum trimline. As you can see here, the beautiful stylings of the Nissan Maxima. Beautiful material in the back. You've got your moon roof with all the beautiful vantage points, and here I am today. So as a direct result, when I transferred a bunch of stuff over from one car into my new car, here I am without some of my stuff that I'm used to doing In the Car with Starr with. So unfortunately, it's a little bit of a makeshift emergency In the Car with Starr podcast entry because again, Tiger Woods was the biggest thing to happen to golf in my lifetime. The second biggest thing to ever happen in my lifetime as it relates to golf is COVID-19 and the pandemic. What brought so many people into the game with so many, especially, student-aged people that were between jobs because of the pandemic, and it shut everybody down, and the government was handing out CERB dollars, and people were taking advantage of some of the money that the government was doling out in order to, cushion the blow of a pandemic that none of us on planet Earth have ever had to endure before. It created this significant bump in the game of golf because golf was one of those sports in the midst of the pandemic that you were actually allowed to play. Don't touch the flagpole, and how dare you? Don't ever put your hand in the hole itself to retrieve your golf ball. Wild days in the COVID-19 era, but nevertheless, the game of golf grew exponentially because of COVID-19. And I think you see such a significant bump in terms of people watching, people playing, people consuming golf content like they never have before, which takes us to what happened for 4 days at the RBC Canadian Open. It's fascinating because I was really bothered by the announcement of the Live Golf acquisition with the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour in Europe. Again, more or less dumping on the RBC Canadian Open. They've moved our national championship around and around. Here it is again, the week before the U.S. Open. Hard to get, the who's who of professional golf into your tournament, knowing that these guys strategize and plan their entire years for the sole purpose of doing very well 4 times a year in the 4 majors of men's professional golf. So what's happened here is the RBC, which just concluded on Sunday, and you had a bunch of players from Europe and from North America all hop on the same charter because they all played at the RBC and chartered a plane to Los Angeles to begin a week's worth of preparation for Thursday's opening round for the U.S. Open, which will be held for the first time in forever at the LA Country Club. So the RBC Canadian Open, our men's national golf championship, repeatedly for what feels like a long time now, has been getting kicked between the legs again and again and again. And the latest kick to the groin was the acquisition, Live Golf, PGA Tour, and the DP World Tour. It happened, on the Tuesday, or the Monday, I should say, of the week of the Canadian Open. But who could have predicted that the Men's National Golf Championship for Canada would have ended the way it did yesterday with Nick Taylor, who, did not play well on Thursday. What, he shoots 75 on Thursday. Nick Taylor's wife pulls him aside, reads him the riot act. You got to play better. You're better than this. And lo and behold, the rest is history. He sets the course record with a 63 on Saturday and then finishes it off in a 4-hole playoff, walking it off with a 72-foot eagle on the 4th playoff hole to become the first Canadian since Pat Fletcher back in 1954 to win the RBC Canadian Open. And what's interesting about Pat Fletcher, who won his national championship in 1954 at the Point Grey Golf Club in Vancouver, Pat Fletcher was born in England and would later become a Canadian citizen and would play under the Maple Leaf and win golf tournaments as a Canadian. But the last Canadian-born player to win our men's national open happened 109 years ago. So it's been a minute, you guys, and golf history was made with Nick Taylor, who once upon a time, if you don't know this, Nick Taylor, who was a phenomenal golf prodigy, came out of the province of British Columbia. I believe he's from Abbotsford, the same hometown as Adam Hadwin, who got Goldberged on 18 yesterday. Go check out In the Car with Starr on Facebook to see exactly what I'm here to talk to you about. And I'll talk about it more in a minute. But nevertheless, here you had Nick Taylor, who got to become the #1 ranked amateur player in the world. He's won a Sanderson Farm. He's won a Pebble Beach National Pro-Am, and yesterday earned his 3rd career PGA Tour win, and again, becoming the first Canadian in almost 7 decades to win our men's national championship. What a moment it was. What a moment it was for Canadian golf with Mike Weir, Corey Connors, Adam Hadwin, Yohann Benson, friend to the TSN 690 morning show with McKenna and yours truly, who guested on our show at 8:05 today. And if you didn't catch Yohann Benson's appearance with Connor and I this morning, please head over to tsn690.ca and see what I'm talking about, or hear what I'm talking about, because Yohann Benson, who is a phenomenal player in his own right, who has played in a U.S. Open, has qualified for a U.S. Open, who has caddied for Mark Hubbard, who I believe finished, T3 or T4 Sunday at the RBC. He knows these guys. He played with Adam Hadwin. He played with Nick Taylor. He played with Nick Taylor's caddy. He's played with Corey Connors. All these guys played on the PGA Tour of Canada's circuit before some of them graduated to the heights that they graduated and are full card-carrying members of the PGA Tour. So it was, it put a massive smile on my face to see Yohann Benson as the camera panned to the back of 18, and there you saw Adam Hadwin, there you saw Mike Weir, there you saw Corey Connors, and boom, right next to all those guys was our guy, Yohann Benson. And Yohann Benson was the 3rd guy Nick Taylor hugged on 18 after Nick Taylor walked it off with a 72-foot birdie putt to win the RBC Canadian Open. So, yeah, it was a great moment through and through for the world of professional golf. And, my phone blew up. It just brings me so much joy knowing, that you all know how much I love the game of golf, how much I nerd out on golf 24/7, 365. I consume it, I play it, I talk about it as much as I possibly can. And I was very quiet on Twitter yesterday, and as a matter of fact, I just wanted to watch. I'm a 44-year-old guy. I didn't grow up in the social media era. Knowing that I like it very much, knowing that I love the world of golf very much. But I just made it a point, to not really spend a lot of time tweeting about what we were watching yesterday. I just wanted to kind of sit back and just take it in for ultimately what it was. And it just put a smile on my face to see how many people were consuming, watching, and just jumped on the golf bandwagon. It was one of those very proud moments. And again, I just want to apologize, right? Because as I said off the intro here, I changed cars, and some of the stuff that I thought I had transferred from my old car into my new car didn't make it. So that's why I'm holding this stupid phone camera with my hand today. I'm all over the place. I apologize if this doesn't sound great, if it doesn't look the best. But I just wanted to get this out there today and not later in the week, because it was such a monumental moment in Canadian sports. And no, it doesn't trump Sidney Crosby's golden goal. No, it doesn't trump the 1972 Summit Series. No, it's not bigger than Mike Weir winning his Masters in 2003 when he beat Len Matisse in a playoff hole on the 73rd hole on Sunday at Augusta National. No, it wasn't bigger than any of those moments, and that's fine. All of those things can be true. It can be an iconic Canadian moment in sports while also not reaching the summit. Let's not be those sports fans that the last thing we saw was the greatest thing we've ever seen, which takes us to, the NBA Finals resume today at 8:30. You got the sense that the series seems to be over with the Miami Heat kind of running out of gas. What got them this deep into the NBA Finals is no longer consistently showing up. And honestly, I'm ready for the NBA Finals to be over. Heavens to goodness, I am ready for the Stanley Cup Final to come to an end as well. This just feels like it's dragging on. And I don't even know if, what's the cause of this layoff? Did the NBA kind of miss the boat a little bit by not having any of its games Saturday or Sunday? They played on Friday, had a quiet weekend. The National Hockey League had its game on Saturday. They're not back at it until tomorrow, and then they're off until Thursday. So it's like, it seems to be dragging on. But yes, Vegas in 5, Nuggets in 5. Let's get this over so we can start to really begin our efforts on the NHL draft, which I'm most interested in. And listen, boy, this camera and holding this camera up is really driving me bonkers, and I apologize for this again. But nevertheless, the draft is starting to drive me crazy. I don't know if you guys feel like you're running out of steam, running out of momentum, where your expectations are at ahead of June 28th and what the Montreal Canadiens are going to do at 5. My bar is very low. My bar is very, very low in terms of who I think they're going to take. I know the guys that I like, the guys that I've read up on, because at the end of this, I haven't really watched any of these players. Adam Fantilli, Connor Bedard, Will Smith, Leo Carlson, Matvei Michkov. I have not really watched other than highlights, and it reminds me of this old story Ted Blackman used to tell every now and again, when I first started my broadcasting career and I moved over to TSN 690 from CJAD in the early spring of 2001. And I remember coming into work one morning with Mitch Melnick and Ted Blackman and yours truly. We were the original morning show in the radio station's history. And the Edmonton Oilers were in a playoff game. It was a late game. It was a West Coast start and everything else. And I remember coming in before showtime, and we were talking about the Oilers win, and I was like, wow, it was a great game. Oilers played really well. And Blackman looked at me. He said, wow, you stayed up. You watched that entire game. Like, good for you. And I'm like, no, I didn't watch. I watched the highlights on the morning loop, And, and he looked at me and he goes, that's why they're called highlights. You didn't watch the game. And so every time I talk about highlights or the fact that Matvei Michkov or Leo Carlson or Will Smith or any of these guys, like, I haven't watched them. I don't watch junior hockey. I'm sorry, like, I've got a lot going on like everybody else. You've got families, you've got jobs. There's only so much room in your sports repertoire to pile in information, So I leave it up to the people that write and talk about it, whose job it is to relay information and put forth the credible opinions and credible speculation about who these players are. So that's what I do. I source information, I read information nonstop, and I come up with my own opinions based on the information that I've gathered, like a little squirrel getting ready for hibernation, Do squirrels even hibernate? I don't think they do. Anyways, I digress. When it comes into the draft and who the Canadiens are, there's part of me, honestly, everybody, that feels like Ken Hughes is such a power broker that this guy's a brilliant poker player, has the best poker face in the room, and he's not willing to leak any information whatsoever to give any general manager that's drafting ahead of him who the Canadiens are leaning towards, So much so I ran into the Montreal Canadiens assistant general manager the other day, and I asked him, I said, hey, what's the plan? What are you guys doing? And he told me, if I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have to kill you. And I was ready to pay that price only if he let me kind of tweet it out before he killed me. But the deal was off, so I don't have any information about who the Montreal Canadiens front office is kind of hinting at. And I know there are other podcasters out there that talk about Cole Caulfield and, he's going to get a contract. And look, if you say enough stuff enough times, eventually you are going to be correct. But I don't know. I know who I like, but again, I'm trying to manage my expectations of who the Montreal Canadiens are likely to take. And look, if Matvei Michkov is there at 5, I hope the Montreal Canadiens take him. I don't care that allegedly he's not coming over for 3 more years. I don't care. I've read enough that leads me to believe that this guy is going to be dynamic. It's a very unique skill set, I should say. I've liked Will Smith from the get-go. I like Will Smith a lot because I think Ken Hughes knows this guy inside and out, knows his family inside and out. So there's this trusted bit of I know this guy, and I know what buttons to push, and I know what type of player he is. I like that perspective a lot. But outside of that, like, I hope the Montreal Canadiens, when Bob McKenzie has his final draft ranking, and they're looking at Reinbacher, or they're looking at other players that are, based on central scouting, or draft experts have them in the 10 to 15 kind of range based on their mock drafts, I will be immensely disappointed if on June 28th, here we are talking about the Montreal Canadiens drafting some guy who everybody in the scouting world had at 15, had at 12. No. So, with that in mind, my expectations are very tempered, and they are very, very low. I'm leaving room to be pleasantly surprised with who the Canadiens are going to take with the 5th overall pick. And, like, even so much so that if they, whoever they get at 5, part of me, again, with the expectations and the law of expectations, I'm like, well, maybe he'll be a good player. I don't even think for a second the Montreal Canadiens are going to get a franchise-altering player. I don't think that. So, yeah, my bar is very low. My expectations are very low. But on the positive side of the spectrum, I like Kent Hughes because he comes across as someone who's very thoughtful, who chooses his words carefully, and I don't get the impression that his opinions and hockey decisions are based on emotion, which I believe Marc Bergevin was guilty of that sometimes. And I don't think Kent Hughes is that guy. I think, if Marc Bergevin is an analog guy who bases his opinions off reads and gut and heart and character, I think Kent Hughes is a modernized digital guy. If I could say that, that's my early read on all of this. So it's a slow crawl. The Stanley Cup finals are taking forever. Vegas in 5, just so we could be done with the Stanley Cup already. Like 8 o'clock, 8:15, 8:20 puck drops. NBA final, 8:30, 8:45 tip-offs. Like, it's enough. I'm done with it. It's, it's mid-June now. It's Grand Prix week. It's the U.S. Open. It's Father's Day weekend. Like, I'm done with the Stanley Cup final. Like, it's okay to end this. It's over. Let's go. I'm done. The season is way too long. And so, yeah, I've reached my my tipping point when it comes to the Stanley Cup final. Hopefully, you tip the scales. Go to K-Stop Gas Bar, Depanneur, Highway 138 in Ganawage. Premium fuel at discount prices 24/7, and you never have to leave your car to fuel your tank up. Go check them out. It's K-Stop Gas Bar and Depanneur, Highway 138. It's Monday today. Their kitchen is open. Fresh prepared meals. They got salad bowls, smoothies, healthy. Tomorrow is Taco Tuesday. You can live your best taco life by going to K-Stop Gas Bar and Depanneur. Premium fuel at discount prices, and the best snack and drink game in the snack and drink game. End of sentence. And don't forget, you can always trust my friends at Axon Transportation Group. Find them online at axontransport.com. More information always available, 888-99-AXON. You can trust the fact that they have the knowledge and the assets to get your cargo to its destination on time, on budget, and safely and securely. Find them, call them. More information, 888-99-AXON. Thanks for all the comments. As always, the NBA Finals are back on tonight. Big point spread. Hard to imagine that the Denver Nuggets don't put this one away. It's a big number, like the under. I think Denver ultimately closes it out. But again, I'm not trying to base my opinions based on what I want. It just looks like Miami, like Florida, their incredible runs, their underdog, 8 seed, Cinderella type runs. This is what happens. This is why, Cinderella sometimes turns into the pumpkin, and the fairy tale doesn't always come true because of the fact that it's very difficult to close out a number 1 seed when you're the big 8 seed and you've been punching above your weight class for the better part of 2 months. The reality of that life ultimately catches up with you. We'll see what Florida has left in their tank as we move towards the end of the Stanley Cup final and starting to get to the seriousness of the NHL draft. Thank you for watching. Hit the like and subscribe button. Share this with your friends. And go pick up a golf club. And don't forget, speaking of that, my golf tournament, September 11th, it's the Starr Classic 2.0. We're going to have a bunch of players in the field. We're going to have 2 buffets, open bar, prizes, drinking food on the golf course. It's going to be a great day, and we're raising a boatload of cash for Club 24 to support Indigenous student athletes. All proceeds, 100% of proceeds, go to supporting Indigenous student athletes through the Club 24 Foundation. You can sign yourself up or your foursome up at info at club24sports.com. We'll see you September 11th.